Hey everybody, thank you for joining me today. My name is Sharon Shaden-Burks, and I am the host for the Idea Networking Sessions, which are instructional designers and educators alliance. We have been doing this for 4.5 years. I'm really happy that all of you are able to join me today. We have two new guest speakers. We have Katherine Matheson and Kristin Lilywhite here to share their experiences. And I'm going to get straight to them. I would advise you to write down your questions. So you have questions to ask them in breakout rooms, and you will get to choose who you chat with in breakout rooms. And after breakout rooms, we'll come back for whole group Q&A and chat some more and share tips and tricks that we have. And if you have any positive news to share, I would love to hear it. Kristin, you logged in first. Would you like to go first today?
Sure. Thanks for the introduction, and I appreciate you hosting this meeting. I know it's a great resource for a lot of people. So like Sharon said, my name is Kristin Lilywhite. My background is in public education, mostly high school. So I taught high school science for 12 years. And, starting in about 2022, I knew that I was ready for a change and looking to transition to a different field. And so instructional design caught my eye, and like many transition teachers, I first learned about this career from a lot of Devin Peck's YouTube content. So that kind of introduced me, and then I started playing around in Storyline Articulate and, generating some portfolio items. Continued to teach for another 2 years. I was applying the whole time for different positions. But then when I finally made the jump last year, I ended up as a learning experience designer. So that's my current role. I work in learning experience design for a software company. So we create micro-learning trainings for different software applications, mostly Microsoft, working with Microsoft 365 products. But we create these courses to teach users how to get more out of the software tools that they're given. So yeah, it's been a journey. On the side, I also do some freelancing. I've networked with some other freelance instructional designers and helped them with their project. So that's something I definitely have an interest in, and I'm still learning more about. But yeah, it's been great learning more about this field and getting some experiences, both as a learning experience designer full-time and as a freelancer on the side in instructional design. So that's a little bit about me and my background and where I'm coming from. I really enjoy helping transitioning teachers as they're looking to apply and get into this field. I enjoy hopping on coffee chats with them. My goal is to help 100 people find the work that they love. So if they've decided that they're ready to leave education, my goal is to help them network and connect and try to get some things going, because I know what a difficult process that can be. So every Wednesday on my LinkedIn, I donate a post to a job seeker in my network, just to spotlight people who are trying to get into a different field. And so that's a little bit about, me and my goals and what I'm hoping to accomplish. And I'm definitely looking forward to getting to know all you better.
Kristin, just one follow-up question.
Sure.
We go on to Katherine. What piece of advice would you have given yourself when you were applying and interviewing?
I think I would have spent more time with, well, two things. One, having more polished portfolio items. I think that really gave me an advantage when I was applying for my current role. I created some overview projects and some example assets as I was interviewing, using some real case studies. So I think if I would have gone back and done it all over, I would have focused more on real use cases and real studies. I think sometimes in public ed, we're kind of in our own little world, and it takes a little bit of time to learn corporate language and, what hiring managers and learning instructional designers find valuable in terms of business solutions. So I would have told myself to spend more time, and less money, I guess, not so much worrying about having, I know some people have done certificate programs, some people have done, boot camps, and that was a great option for them. But I think for me, what gave me an advantage for my current role was having a portfolio item that was really relevant to the position I was applying for. The second thing I would tell myself is more interview practice. As the interview process went on and the hiring process went on, applying for different jobs, speaking of AI tools, I definitely refined my interviewing skills by using AI to generate some questions relevant to the field, commonly asked questions in the field, and practicing those questions helped me do better in my interviews later on in the job seeking process. So I think those are two things that possibly could have helped speed up my search a little bit, is just really focusing in on portfolio items that are relevant and meaningful and valuable, and using AI tools to practice interviews earlier on in the process. If if you guys want to hear about my disastrous first interview, I'll be happy to share that story, but I think that helped me later on, and so I would have told myself to do that sooner.
I've been there. And that's not just you. All right, Katherine, are you ready?
I'm ready. I mean, I kind of want to hear the disastrous interview story. I'm like, ooh, that piqued my interest. Yeah, we definitely all have one of those. So my background is in public and private education. I was a high school Spanish teacher for 20 years in both public and private schools. And I decided, I was recently looking back in my files, and I think the first time that I actually applied to a non-teaching role was like maybe 2000, maybe 2021, but it had been kind of bouncing around in the back of my mind for like several years that I didn't want to teach forever for the rest of my career. I didn't want to be in the classroom. That thought had been with me for a number of years by the time the pandemic hit. I won't go into my reasons for leaving because I think it's very common and everybody knows why. Um, but in 2022, I got serious about it, and it was a very slow process for me. I'm currently, the job I have now is as an instructional designer. I work for Travelers, which is a major property and casualty insurance company based in Hartford, Connecticut, which is where I am from and where I live. And it was a very long process for me. And I started that job at the end of last year, and it was like a 2-year process for me to go from deciding I don't want to teach anymore to actually getting like the job that was right for me at the time. So I was working full time. I have young kids. Like I had a lot going on. So it just took a long time. It took a long time. And I gave myself lots of pep talks during that time. Um, and I can talk more about that journey also, like more specifically in the breakout rooms. I learned a lot during those 2 years about myself and about like corporate and about instructional design and about resume writing and interviewing and networking. My days now are really interesting. So I have a ton of meetings. Like my days are most of my days are meetings with my SMEs, or business partners, or if I have on my team, it's kind of unusual to have a project partner or a collaborator, but right now I do, and so we meet constantly to work on this specific project. There's also a lot of project management, like just being able to see a specific like the project for a learning solution from beginning to end. Um, my manager does a lot of the needs assessment, and then they kind of hand it off to me. But then there's an expectation that through my meetings, my working sessions with the SMEs, that other things will come up, like as I'm asking questions and getting to know the problem a little bit more. So being able to manage projects and track and meet milestones is huge. And then being able to knowing when to ask for help is a big deal. And then writing, like lots and lots of writing. So being able to run an efficient and productive and friendly meeting, and like managing projects from beginning to end, and then writing, being a really good writer. So and let's see, what else can I say here? I developed I dragged my feet a little bit developing a portfolio, but I think what I ended up putting together reflected the kind of work that I wanted to be doing. And I focused a lot on what I had developed for other adults that I worked with, for my colleagues. So not things that I had created for kids in the class, because that wasn't what I wanted to do. I wanted to work with adults, and I had done a lot of professional development, and I had run a lot of like committees and stuff like that in my years as a teacher. So that's what some things I created just for my portfolio. Like I got some volunteer experience in and used that work in my portfolio, but then some of it I adapted. It was work that I had done for my colleagues in school, and I adapted it for my portfolio. And then some advice that I would give myself. I was very reluctant to engage on LinkedIn. I was at the beginning. It probably took me 6 months to a year to start like really connecting with people and like asking questions and setting up coffee chats or whatever. It took a long time for me to be comfortable doing that. So that's and now I feel much more comfortable. And I actually find that networking, that skill of talking to people that I don't know and reaching out to people and being specific and polite at the same time about what I need, is actually a good skill for me to have developed, because I'm using that skill all the time in my role as an instructional designer. So going back, I would tell myself in 2022, like, you just gotta do it. Like, you just have to use LinkedIn, and you just have to network, and you have to talk to people. So it can be tough when you're an introvert, but yeah.
I agree with you. But you know what, Katherine? I will say that one good thing about the job that because I'm also an introvert, but I can put on the extrovert mask. And I did for years when I was teaching. You know how at the end of the day, when you teach, I don't know, 5 to 7 hour, like the really long days of being in front of people, how you just went home and you were like,
Yes.
that doesn't happen. Almost, I won't say never, but it rarely happens because you
Mm-hmm.
can have that variety in the type of work that you're engaged in.
Yeah. Totally. Yeah, I definitely find that. I don't have this like bone tired fatigue at the end of the day that I did just on a regular day, like just a regular day at school would just like wipe me out. And I taught for 20 years, and for a long time, I was getting energy from this, but then something switched. I think also having young children had something
Yeah.
to do with that. It's exhausting. Like, it's relentless. So yeah, and it's ironic because through networking, now I have a podcast. It's a podcast about language diversity and learning design. So I'll share that link a
Yeah.
little later. Yeah, let me find it. But we have a new episode has launched actually, but we haven't like marketed it yet. Yeah, I'll put the link in the chat.
Yeah.
But it was through networking that I got that opportunity. And both my co-host and I are like major introverts. So I think it's like a testament to the magic of like what you can do when you want something really badly, and you need to learn how to get it.
Yeah. And is it okay to link to that podcast within the materials I send out to people?
No, Sharon, I want a secret podcast. Of course.
I feel like I have to ask, because
Of course.
sometimes people they are surprising sometimes. And I'm like, oh, well.
No, I don't want a secret podcast. Please share it widely. Thank you.
I have happened across a couple really good ones lately. I'll just throw them out there. They don't have anything to do with ID. So if you just need, an escape, here's a really good one that will blow you away. It's called the telepathy tapes. Has anybody listened to this? It will blow your mind. It is about nonverbal autistic people having the ability to communicate via telepathy. I know it sounds crazy, but you should just go and listen to it because it is bananas. Bananas good. So it's on Apple Podcasts, wherever you listen to podcasts.
I definitely will. That sounds fascinating.
Oh my gosh. And they talk to teachers too, like because they understand like teachers have very strong relationships with these students. And they're like, I know it sounds crazy, but this kid can read my mind. And they actually do like tests in the podcast. They set it up,
Wow.
experiments. You'll never
So
look.
what's the name again?
Thank you.
I
Yes.
add just one more thing about networking.
Yeah.
So I 100% agree with everything that Katherine said about LinkedIn and using groups like, IDEA. This has like been a great resource for lots of people that I've talked to. There's groups for freelancing, there's groups for lots of things on LinkedIn, but also in-person networking can be such a valuable tool. One thing I did do as I was doing this career transition was I took a course that was specifically for single moms or moms who had been out of the workforce for a while that were trying to upskill to enter the tech field. It's a local nonprofit here in Utah, and I love it. I could talk a whole hour about that. I won't, but one of the things that gave me a real advantage, I think, was, things like the Slack channel where they would post about job openings, and that's how I made a connection to someone who works in my company, and had a call with her and then scheduled a lunch with her, and she really gave me a good idea of what the role would be like. She was a former single mom, and like it really helped me, I think, to understand kind of how to talk to the company and how to what would be valuable to the company that she worked for. So I think that's a skill that can also be learned. Yes, LinkedIn 100%, but also in-person networking can be a huge tool when you're trying to find opportunities, or you're trying to transition. I know I had a former mentor who's now the division president of ELB, and he was telling me about ATD events, and these once a month events that you can go to, these networking events. And so I 100% agree that online networking is important skill, but also in-person events can help you like with that opportunities.
Yeah, I want to echo that. I think that's a really good point, Kristen. One of the reasons why I chose, so like I mentioned, I work at Travelers now, and it's in Hartford, and I'm local to Hartford, Connecticut. And I think I first started thinking about Travelers as a potential target company back in like early 2023. I think the first connection I made on LinkedIn was like back then. And I know this just because I was interacting with that person via email at Travelers just this week of something else. And I was like, I know this person. How do I know her? I'm like, I think I connected with her on LinkedIn. And, over time, as I connected with more people, I actually ended up applying to Travelers 8 times. So I just want to like, at times I felt silly. I was like, why do I keep doing this? Like, why do I keep applying for these jobs where I get rejected? But I, through that process, I got to know the recruiter, and she got to know me. And this last job, the last one that I applied to that I got, she actually recommended. She's like, "This is the one for you. This is the one for you." And this is and because they have a hybrid workforce, like the pool is just smaller. Like it's just smaller than something that's fully remote. And and my coworkers are all, they're not all local because they're kind of where it's a distributed team, but the pool is smaller, and I still run into people like, when I drop off my kids at school, like another dad is like wearing a Traveler sweatshirt. I'm like, oh, you work at Travelers? Like me too. And so I just think that there's a lot of opportunity there to kind of build relationships if you're, not to say that, working remotely isn't good, but I know a lot of people are looking for that. And I personally have been really happy that I was able to find a job with a local company. So.
Okay, welcome back, everyone. I hope you had awesome discussions. Before we get into our whole group Q&A, I wanted to mention that our next session is going to be May 6th, also a Tuesday, always on a Tuesday, first Tuesday of the month, if you just want to book them out. But I am taking June off, so just letting you know. The registration link for the May 6th session is there in the chat. Before we get to whole group Q&A, there are a few things I want to share with you that I don't think I've shared before in our sessions. We had so last July, I went to a conference in Orlando hosted by University of Central Florida called Teaching with AI. And the guest speaker there was Dr. Jose Bowen. And his website is, oh, that's cool, Brandy. Brandy's going. The guest speaker, the keynote speaker at that conference was Dr. Jose Bowen, and his website is teachingnaked.com. Maybe just try to get it absolutely right, because I don't know what's going to come up for you. But anyway, I'm going to share in the chat one of my favorite pages on his website is AI workshop. His AI, can you see this? AI prompts. He just has prompts here for teaching, but can be modified for other purposes. And I think it's really helpful just for your own learning about how to prompt AI. So many good ideas here. And he gives away these examples for free. So if they're useful to you in your current role as a teacher, great. He also just has really good things on here for using AI in general. He puts all his handouts out here for you to take a look at. And he has a new book. I don't have the book yet, but he was a fantastic guest speaker. So I'm sure that his book is great too. And and the other thing I wanted to share, something I have been doing with AI recently, this is kind of like my new thing, is just kind of sharing how I'm using generative AI in my work. Something I've done lately is asking it to summarize articles. So I want to stay up to date on research in different areas. And I came across this article and it was quite long. And I just needed to know what the main points were and how it applies to me. And I think it did a pretty good job. And even on suggestions for my ID practice. I can always go back and take a stronger or more detailed look at it. But I thought it did really, really good. So anyway, that's just something that I'm doing with AI lately. Always like to share what I'm doing. And now I want to open it up to you. Kristin, yes, please do. Is it okay? Kristin asks, is it okay if I share your slide deck with my LinkedIn? Yes, absolutely, no problem. I'm kind of like Katherine, like just put it out there. If I put it out there, yeah, but I appreciate it. All right.
Speaking of putting it out there, I just wanted to say, I made a resource for you guys.
Nice.
So that's there. And then also, I'll do it now since I have the floor, but Erin Luber gave me a discount code.
Thank you. Yes.
Which I will put in the chat. And it's 50% off for her courses, and then 50% off for 1 hour of private coaching, which I think makes it $150 instead of $300. To be clear, I did do some coaching with Erin Luber, but it was like a group coaching. I never did private coaching with her. And I did purchase her courses and I found them worthwhile, but I'm not selling anything. That's just if you decide that you need some help, which I did. I found her courses to be very helpful. And then she very kindly offered to share a discount with this group. So.
All right, let's open it up. Anybody have anything to ask the whole group or share? See what we got with all of our brains in this room together.
So do we think there's still, oh, sorry, did I talk?
It always happens like that, right? It's like
Go ahead.
right when you're gonna say something, you just go ahead, Brandy, please. You're brilliant. Go ahead.
I was just going to ask if we generally think that there are enough opportunities out there for transitioning teachers. If a teacher decided today, I want to transition in the future, do we think that in the current climate, we could sustain them all?
Catherine, do you have?
I
Yeah.
mean, I think this climate is extremely challenging. I'm just going to put that out there. This is a bonkers job market. I think that if anyone who decides that they want to do something different with their lives can do it. It doesn't mean it's going to be fast or easy. You just have to have clarity about what you want and clarity about how you're going to get there. And you have to have persistence, and you have to stick with it, and you have to do a little bit every day. Like, you just have to keep going, and you have to take feedback and apply it. Like, I think if someone who wants to change their life, I think if someone does those things, like if they have clarity, if they have a plan, if they have resilience and persistence, and if they can learn from mistakes and take feedback without it crushing them, then I think that they can do it. So.
Yeah, my thoughts on your question, which I really appreciate, by the way, Brandy, is I think the hardest part is breaking in. I think there's a lot of sort of mid-level positions out there, but it's that whole conundrum of how do you get experience when you need experience, right? I didn't mention this earlier, but I actually started in a different role in a different field. I was a biotech researcher for 5 months before I started as a learning experience designer. And I think that is the hardest thing, is just articulating, because teachers are professionals, and I feel like we are qualified for those mid-level like positions, but we have to really work hard at honing in our message and really like perfecting that portfolio. So I think, yes, it is very challenging, but the hardest part is breaking in. And then I think there's a lot more opportunity as you gain more experience. But that's just what I've noticed as I've tried to help other teachers.
I think that's really well put, Kristin. I totally agree. It's like that first, if you can get that first thing, even if it's like a part-time contract. I know Kristin and I had exchanged messages on LinkedIn. We both did some contract work. I took on a couple of like part-time contracts while I was still teaching. And one experience was really great, and one experience really not so much. But again, it was still things that it's fodder for the interview, and it's experience, and it's something that doesn't say teacher on your resume. And like, it's, as you know, as long as you protect yourself and you don't get scammed, like it's not a experience is a great teacher. So yeah, I agree.
No,
like seeking out those contracts can help, I think.
Yeah, well, I will add this. One thing I have noticed is, by and large, I feel like the learning and development field is a very generous field in terms of mentors and people who are willing to collaborate, and groups, and just free expertise that's given out. So I think, as you know, as much as we can work with those people, that was my first freelance experience, right? Was working with another instructional designer that I met through LinkedIn. So I think, yes, there are ways of breaking in, but I agree that resilience is key, grit is key, and just, you know, making your own path, because it's not necessarily an easy one. But for me, it was the right transition, and I'm happy where I'm at. I think it was worth all the, elbow grease was worth it.
Totally. Yep. Close
Well,
one.
I had asked Kristin about the portfolio, putting together a portfolio, and she had some wise words to share. And I think, Kristin, correct me if I'm wrong, it was from another idea networking session that you kind of are referencing this from.
No, actually, it was an ID Lance. I don't know if you guys are
Sorry, okay.
connected to that Slack group, but it was an ID Lance webinar from last week.
What is that, ID Lance?
I'm in the Slack group for ID Lance too. It's yeah. Go ahead, Kristin.
Oh no, I was just gonna say it's sort of a networking group for people who focus on freelancing. But I can post the link. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, Catherine.
Thank you.
All right, great.
No, it was yeah. I have recommended ID Lance. They often post gigs. They have like a Slack hashtag that's like gig alerts. And it's also an instructional design company. So they contract with companies, and sometimes you can even like they'll post if they need 1099 contractors, they'll post in the Slack channel. So and they do events and stuff, and their marketing is really good. They're like funny and they make jokes, and it's like not super serious, and it's a very welcoming community. So and I did do one like a rapid design. They did one thing last summer, I think it was, where you had to take a TED talk and turn it into a Rise course in like 40 minutes. It was like a challenge, and that was really cool. And so good. It's just good. Like it was, I recommend it as well.
And another resource that I recommend is the creators of that Slack group have actually written a book. I read the Kindle version, but it's like, I can't remember the exact title, but it's like ditch your cubicle in 7 months. It's like a 7-month plan for transitioning to like freelancing on your own. And that was a really great like reference resource. Very readable, very, like you said, it's funny, and their brand is kind of quirky, but it was very helpful information for people considering that route for transitioning.
Can you repeat that one more time, please? I'm taking notes.
ID Lance. I put the
Oh yeah.
well,
Okay, got it.
I put links in the chat, but I'll go ahead and share my.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, that's okay. I got it. Thank you so much.
I see what you mean about the humor, and I'm here for it. Instructional design guru and freelancer. Ha 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 ha. We were so similar, I don't know. We all kind of gravitate towards this. Feeling lonely, bud.
Yeah, the webinar link is in the chat as well, and I'll find the book and I'll put that link in as well.
That's so good. I love learning from you guys. I always learn something new. I had no idea that Slack group existed, so that's great. Thanks, Donette. Have a great night. Are there any final questions in our last minute, or are we ready to wrap up? Covered a lot. Might be a good time to wrap it up. I think I've said everything that I came to say, and I'm leaving with more tips than I even planned for. Kristin put in, thank you for the link, Kristin. Ditch your cubicle. It's an ebook. So
so the first link was the webinar that was from last week, the replay, and then the second one is the book.
Okay.
But yeah, they're both great.
Awesome. And I'll include these links also in the email that I send out to all the registered participants of the session. And thank you for all the resources, because it's going to be a nice email and a nice LinkedIn post when it comes out. All right, everyone. Thank you so much, Katherine and Kristin, for being here and sharing your expertise and your experience. And I trust that the epic fail interview, Kristin, was very good. Man, we all have one, so it doesn't mean anything. It's just an experience. Oh, thank you so much.
You gotta start somewhere, right?
You do.
Yeah.
Everyone has to start somewhere, and it's totally fine.
Yeah.
I look forward to seeing you all, hopefully May 6th. And for your planning purposes, we're going to take June off, but we'll be back in July.
Sharon, quick question. Are there archives? Is there an archive of past
Yeah,
sessions?
if you look in the chat, I put a playlist in YouTube where all of them will appear since August 2020. If you want to watch all of them.
Of course I do. Let me see. I'm trying. Oh, here it is. I see it now. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Sharon.
No problem. All right, everyone. Have a great evening, and I'll see you hopefully in a month.
Take care.
Appreciate it.
Bye.